need to chill out after today's shift because it's the second week of August and everybody's getting ready to go back to school. And all I kept telling myself during my shift to get through it is it's a great time to not have kids. Let's draw a card. We got good deeds. I like how these cards probably know how much of a soul that's needy I am because it keeps coming up with good deeds. And I'm like, is this a subliminal message? Are you trying to tell me that I need to become nicer, kinder, sweeter, and shit like that? Let's see what it says. Make amends with a friend you have fallen out with. I have exactly one person in mind. As soon as I read that, it hit me. The year was 2014. Not sure if I have shared this story in the channel, but I'm going to really breeze by it. I had a friend who got mad at me after I moved out from her place. Basically, what led up to it was in June of 2013, my mom and I attempted to move to Kansas to help one of her friends start a bakery. And one teacher that I was keeping up with at the time, I remember that I stopped by school just to hang out with him briefly. He was like, Kansas? You're moving to Kansas? What the hell are you doing in Kansas? What the hell are you going to do in Kansas? He was formerly a university professor, and that's just the way he talked. And I always liked that. It was nice that I guess I was a senior when I was in his class, and he was letting the cuss words come out. That, I feel, was the first omen that this shit was gonna go wrong. So anyway, we tried that, and I remember as soon as I arrived at that godforsaken place, I said to myself, by September, I want to be back in my hometown because geologically, I just did not like Kansas. And I was also meteorologically, I can't believe I messed that up. I didn't catch myself. Afraid of it because it's fucking Tornado Alley. I don't need to be out there. The thunderstorms were fun to watch, watching them roll in, but I said, I thank God that I'm not a permanent resident because this place is just not the place for me. That whole adventure failed. Mom and I ended up moving back to our hometown, and I said, okay, I need somewhere to crash because unfortunately we don't really own anything around here, and we had to apply for apartments and whatnot. But how the fuck do you do that when you're unemployed? The biggest stress at the time was that my car had been purchased at the end of April. So we had that loan going on, and we also had our phones. Those were our two bills. And fortunately, your girl right here is so fucking good about saving money, between saving up what my grandparents had given me forever and any miscellaneous money that I made or someone gave me. I had $800-ish. I spent 230 of those dollars buying my keyboard, and after that, whatever remainder I had, I always held on to it. I never touched that money. My only regret is, of course, I was a freaking child during the times that I was accruing this money. I wish I would have had a savings account, but I mean, yeah, girl just knew how to save. I was able to pay 3 months of my car despite me not owning it. At the time, I remember that the monthly payment for it was pretty low. It was only like $300. So anyway, there was that. And I remember reaching out to who I labeled as my best friend at the time. We used to email the crap out of each other. She is the person I'm thinking about when I say that I can send very long, detailed emails to. It's one of those things that I just took great pride in because I was never really a chatter, but this was giving me an opportunity to be social and talk about me. I don't get to talk about me often. Where you might see me, this channel was pretty much the continuation, I guess, of what I had lost in a sense. But anyway, just to give you an idea, I'll never forget telling her around July, hey, I just need a place to crash at. Your backyard will do just fine. We just need somewhere we can be without being asked to leave or being put on a shelter because there's no telling what can happen in places like that. That type of thing. She said, yeah, of course, come over. It was around the end of July, I want to say. I can't remember if it was early July or the end of July. But anyway, we ended up at her place. And I remember that, of course, August rolled around. It was my birthday. I still have pictures of when that happened. It was an overall great time. It was her mom, herself, and her little sister. It was all great. It was fun. I mean, everyone was living their lives, and we only came together to have dinner, supper, as we call it down here in the South. I don't know if that's a Southern thing, but I feel like I've only heard of that in the South. So anyway, we had that semi-religiously at 6 p.m. unless I had like a closing shift at the time. And like I said, everything was great, everything was fun, everything was fine, everything was cool. But mom and I always had plans to get out of there as soon as possible. I got hired on August the 12th of that year, and mom got hired. It was about, I can't remember if it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Let's round it up to a month. My mom got hired a month after I got hired. So, with that in mind, I was, of course, saving up some money, took up the responsibility of continuing to pay for the car and other bills, and mom continued using some of her savings, right? By October, it was either early October or late September. I sincerely cannot remember. It's in my journal. We had moved out. We left because we always said when we arrived back in July that we don't intend to stay very long. We just needed somewhere to arrive at, build our money up a little bit, and we would look for an affordable apartment and we would be out of there. Well, it happened. Mom and I operate pretty hastily. At least I, to this day, still continue to operate with urgency. I move fast. I do things and you don't find out about it until I'm done. If I have time to tell you about what I did, it's just how we are. We like to operate like that. We let you know that we're working on something and that say we are working on looking for a place, but we're not going to give you the details of where we have applied for, how much we have spent, when we can expect to be out, little things like that. We just don't disclose that. We like to tell you the story when we have all the details settled and everything is in motion. Well, mom and I had very, very, very little things with us. Everything that we brought, we hauled in my car. And I remember that mug was just stuffed. But, anyways, everything fit in my car. So we just, the same day that they gave us the apartment key, we loaded up my car and we just moved out, and we left the spare key in the same hiding place that we obtained it from after they disclosed it. And then mom had her copy that she left atop the table. And we left a note. We said, hey, thanks so much for everything. We are on the move right now. We found a place. We're going to get started with moving out and occupy it. We'll see you soon. Boom. We left a handwritten note because we think that that's just the way to leave something that's permanent, something that's written, express appreciation. But we had every intention to come back. I don't know if all of you watching me have experience moving, but moving is expensive, time consuming, and there are so many small details to keep in mind that it's easy to get, I guess, trapped in it, very consumed by it, and you want to escape from places as quick as possible. So in our note, we were just expressing gratitude, and at some point we intended to come back. We assumed that the door would be open for us to visit, but I discovered that that was utterly offensive for them, and to this day I don't understand why. My friend and I had a more active communication via email because we just had different schedules and she loved to ramble. And I just remember that she sent me this email. I don't know if it was the same day or maybe a couple of days after, in which she was saying that she was upset and she doesn't know she can trust me because after all we have been through together, all I leave is a note and the keys, and I don't say goodbye and shit like that. And I'm like, I'm only like one town over. It is not a burden to come out here. And on top of that, I have a job. Mom has a job. At the time, leaving the note is what felt best. We couldn't wait for y'all to come home because, again, as responsible, active, serious, very good with time management people that we are, that's just the way that we had to go about it. No one ever before had ever gotten offended by a handwritten note. I thought as soon as we can, we're going to come back and visit y'all and let you know where we were at, how it's going. No, she completely pretty much shut us out. Basically, to sum it up, she was offended. And on her email, all I remember was her saying that she couldn't trust us, especially after we left and just left a note behind with the keys and didn't explain why. And I'm like, what do you mean we didn't explain why? We always said we are looking for places, and as soon as we get hired somewhere, we are going to move out. We don't need to be here for a year. We don't need to try to split a mortgage payment with you if that's your payment arrangement on this house. I don't know if they owned that house or if it was a lease. Don't know, don't care. I just know that I thought we were cool. Like, you understand that my mother and I are two grown adults and we are operating as grown adults, and your schedules, respectively, did not align with ours, and that it was okay that you support us, that you have our back. But no. So that was like toward the end of 2013. I didn't hear back from her until, I want to say it was like either the first week of May or the first week of June. And she was reaching out to me, telling me things like, we treated each other like we were sisters. I miss my sister. And she was sending me like quotes and memes about what it's like to have a sister and a close friend, something like that, and how she missed us staying up, talking, and our long emails and stuff. And I said, girl, I forgave you as soon as I read your bullshit because I sincerely could not understand what was offensive about it. I still have those emails. Maybe I should pull it up and review them. I should have done that before doing this. How did I know that this was the card that was going to come out, right? All I remember is that I couldn't understand why this was offensive when my mother and I were simply manifesting as responsible adults. I remember the day that she reached out. I was at my old apartment 2 apartments ago, and it was my first, I guess, summer season after being hired. It was about to be a year since I had been hired, so I was kind of like going through the motions of everything. And at the time, in spring 2014, I got horribly sick. It was the worst illness I had experienced up until that point. I had that to share with her. I had work anecdotes to share with her, things like that. But it just disappointed me that she took that attitude, and I don't believe I brought up how things ended at the time. She made a brief mention about how she was sorry that that's how things turned out. But there was a part of me that believes that maybe she missed my mom and I being present in her household because mom certainly assisted her mom with some shit. And by extension, we helped with the 4-year-old sister that she had at the time. Yeah, because I remember she said, I'm almost 4. So yeah, this child who happens to go to the school that my mom was teaching at, that's where my mom got hired. And the place my mom got hired was a recommendation by my friend's mom. See what I mean? Do we owe her for resolving our situation at the time in the safest, quickest way possible? Of course, and I will always say it everywhere that I go. But at what point do we still owe you something? I feel like it's one of those instances where you may take the stance of, remember at the time when you were in the streets and I picked you up and this, that, and the other. It's like, okay, I thanked you for that. We contributed in your household. We did not disturb your pattern very much. We even supplied our resources to help you, such as us bringing home this child and even installing a car seat in my car. See what I mean? We helped. We prepared food here and there in the same manner that they prepared food here and there. We were living in a balance. In this all female household, there was nothing but balancing acts. What about that became offensive? I have no idea. This individual, we got back in touch around that time, mid 2014, but then I sincerely don't remember what else happened. I think she moved out to another state, something like that. She ended up getting this job that took her to, it was somewhere up north. And I said, okay, great. She gets to do what she likes to do, things like that. But then we stopped chatting. And then I noticed that she stopped following me on one of our social medias. And I said, okay, the social media she happened to stop following me at is possibly due to political reasons, because you guys know that I'm super honest and I really don't have an affiliation. I'm neither conservative nor liberal. I'm just in the middle. I think all of us are in the middle, but we're just too afraid to admit it, and we like to commit to one side over the other. That is one of the few times in my life you'll ever hear me that I'm in the middle. And it's because the way that bipartisanship is defined, values from one side do not correspond with me, but some values do, in the same manner that the opposite side has values that I can identify with, but other values that do not conform to me at all. I don't have a choice, but everywhere I go, I always say I'm independent and I don't have any affiliations, whatever that is. It's like independent to me means that I don't depend upon any of y'all. I don't know if that's the official meaning of it, but officially I'm unaffiliated. On paper, I guess at the time when I first became eligible to vote and shit like that, I did pick a side, but just because I picked one, it doesn't mean that I always represented it, you know, like I always backed it up and supported it with my vote. She was really, really deep into politics. I didn't mind the conversation. I can say that I learned some things from her in the same manner that me challenging her views. Hopefully she learned something from me, but she was just extremely on one side of that spectrum, whereas I knew how to comfortably and confidently live being the way that I am, which is neither side fully satisfies my identity. I guess that maybe as I was posting about things that I know may go against her, maybe she took it personal. She thought that it was about her or that I was trying to go against her. When I share something on social media or I post something on social media, I like to repost it because it either made me laugh, I learned something, I find it silly, I find it useful. It's a stupid profile. If you know me in real life, you should know by now what my intent is with that shit. Why are you worried about my online activity? If you have the time to cut ties with me online, that clearly shows me that you get offended by the shit that you see online, which is one of the last things you should do in the world. To me, at the time, I looked at it as a severe lack of maturity. And by 2015, I want to say that's when I noticed that we had completely lost all communication. And I remember that it was either 2016 or 2017, every month of September, that's her baby sister's birthday. She's no longer a baby, of course, but at the time, from the moment I learned her birth date up until that year 2017ish, I kept saying, hey, I'm thinking about your sister today, wish her happy birthday, we think about you guys, this and that. And after that, you know, there was no effort made from neither side because I know I don't have the fucking time. And I know that she's all the way out there. We never really tried to rekindle our friendship. And on top of that, I know she was married. She got married at some point. I never received an invitation. I never found out. I found out by accident when I signed in to Facebook to upload pictures from my phone to my secret albums on Facebook so that I have space in my phone. And she happened to be the top story, and it showed something about how she's married. And I'm like, oh, okay, she ended up marrying the guy who I knew she was with this entire time. I met her when we were in middle school. So we went way back. And we got closer during high school, and then we spent years connected after we graduated and shit like that. And sincerely, I thought she would be my one friend in life who would stick around forever. But I guess not. And it disappointed me because by the time that all of this happened, I had already experienced enough with female friendships and how they just don't work. We had a mutual friend that because we individually fell out with the same person, that helped us get closer. Because the shit that did not work out with this other friend that we had in common, that's not something we clashed on, that helped us get together. See what I mean? That helped us get closer together. And I thought, this is it. This is genuinely going to be a permanent friend. We can talk about politics and she'll get upset sometimes, but she'll recover. She understands my point. She sees that I remain calm and chill and I don't get offended. But she did. And again, it was just so disappointing. But when I look back, I'm like, what the fuck could I expect out of a Capricorn? You know what I mean? I started throwing shade based off the zodiac, but I felt okay, maybe I'm getting along with this person because that's how my family is. But I'm like, oh, look at that, a Capricorn who couldn't do any better in my life. I just play games with myself, you guys, because I really, really do not want to hold any more grudges in my life after the grudge that I held against my dad for like, how many years was that? 16 years. It took me up until I was 16 years old to like relax about my hatred toward my dad. Did he continue to disappoint me afterward? And I gathered more like incidents and episodes that added to it, sure, but it's not like it was defining me as bad as it used to. And this friend of mine, she helped me cope with my daddy issues, and I will forever be grateful for her that she was there during a time I needed it the most, and during a time that I was clashing with my mom as well here and there, and that I wasn't judged, I was heard, I had good advice. But I'm not an ass kisser. Like, sorry. That's pretty much the story. So to answer to the card, no, I have zero intention of rekindling anything with this individual. And there are friends who have been reaching out to me that I've been surprised about, like, oh, you remembered me, say, because they remembered around this time it's my birthday, but they couldn't remember the exact date, something like that. Or they're wondering where my mom is at or how stuff is with my boyfriend, things like that. But yeah, outside of that, everyone who's relevant to me being in touch with me presently and active. And they don't be playing games with me like this. Although it's about to be 10 years since all of this happened with this friend, more than likely she could receive me with an embrace and open the door wide open, something like that. I'm just sincerely not interested because look at it as my available spaces for people in my life to occupy in my personal life is full. I'm maxed out. I don't need a new friend. I don't need new people to give attention to or old ones to reintegrate, to give attention to and invest in. I need none of that. If anything, I want to like have some space from some folks despite how relatively quiet it is in my life, but sometimes you feel like that obligation, that you feel compelled to reach out sometimes, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm starting to feel like that. Then I remember there's no obligation here. I do what I can do, manage what I can manage, how it's practical and proper for me. If it's too much, then set my distance, and if they still welcome me like everything is cool just like I do for them, then great. But if not, let them go. There's opportunities for new people in the future, and if I need it, I got social skills. I know how to put myself out there. But I'm just saying that to have a lit, very deep connection established and cultivating it, I'm not in the position for that. And if she vacated her position, which she was pretty much the next most important next to my mom, because at the time I wasn't seeing anybody, she renounced that position, then that's on her. Okay? What can I say? Well, I guess I can say that she was around very, very briefly when I started seeing my boyfriend, but I don't remember them ever meeting. So, yeah. But she did know that I was starting to see somebody. Well, there you guys have it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know if you have a story like this. Have you ever made up with somebody? Have you ever reconnected with somebody to where they actually stayed with you after this reconnection? I know that happens to my mom a lot. Sometimes my mom could go like 10, 20 years without hearing from someone, and suddenly they would see each other or they would reach out or email her, and then it was lit. Catching up is always super fun, such a thrill. But for me, I guess we're all so dispersed, and sometimes I feel like social media, despite me not really updating my profiles like that, I feel like social media makes it harder for you to reach out to someone because it's like you're watching the news, but you're not interacting with it. Let's say that I post that I'm getting married. Sure, I may get a few congratulations, but no one is really going to be there talking about how they have seen me grow with my partner up until that step. It's more of, you know that for a fact I'm off the market, but you don't know how long I have been with this person, if I live with them, details like that. It's like you know the fact, but not the backing details of it. All right, guys, I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.